Hi, I'm Katie, and this is episode 39 of Ornamentations with some new finishes, including lots and lots of Katie's Sparkle Prim. There's also a kit launch today. I have an update on my Brenda casket as I've made some good progress on the last remaining panel. There's the silk giveaway winner from the previous episode and just a little bit of very special haul that I'm excited to share with you. So we have all of that coming up, but just first a quick life update. I am in Northern California. Some of you have reached out to ask if I've been affected by the terrible flooding, and the answer is thankfully no. I'm okay. My family and friends were all okay. Nobody's flooded. We all even have power, which is nothing short of miraculous considering the terrible damage the just seemingly never-ending stream of rain is doing across the state. So I'm just very glad that everything's okay here, and with that, let's get on to the stitching, although I hope you will hold all the people who have been affected in your heart, because the scenes are just unbelievable. It's amazing. I think they said on the news the other night that we've had almost constant rain since December 27th, and oh yeah, it's soggy around here, but very grateful to be okay. Let's talk stitching though, because that's why we're here. And today we're going to start with the kit launch. So now available are kits for Plum Street Samplers this Joyous season, which is a finish of mine that you have seen before, but now the kits are officially launched. They're available on my website, which is linked in the description, and I've got all the details for you here. So kit this Joyous season, so it includes a 17 by 17 cut of legacy linen, 38 count Irish coffee, so that would be margins suitable for framing. I realize that I love the pillow finish, not everybody does, and this is a piece that many of you might wish to frame as shown on Plum Street's model. So large piece of linen with framing margins in case you don't want to contract the design and do a pillow as I've done here. You also have 16 spools of thread, and those comprise Soie Gobelins, Soie 103, Soie Surfine, and Accentuate, which are those two right here, the Surfine and Accentuate, used together for just a little bit of sparkle. We've got this luscious grouping of vivid, vibrant, absolutely gorgeous reds and pinks, which in my mind really make the design, and then some good greens and some wonderful supporting neutrals to fill out the fabulous color pack for these. It really is gorgeous. A bit brighter than the called for on Plum Street's model stitch, but as my linen choice has a little bit more color to it, I think it produces this really wonderful, vibrant stitch, perfect for post-Christmas, but still in winter as we're looking forward to brighter and hopefully in California, sunnier days. So those are the details on the threads. And then for the first time, I am also including with the regular kit insert, which explains all the details of the conversion, a printed photograph of my own stitch that you can refer to if you want to while you're stitching, as I did make changes from the model stitch. What the kit does not include, and the kit is $90 by the way, now available on my website. Sorry, forgot some kind of essential information there. What the kit does not include, the chart, which you have to provide. I know a lot of people already have the chart, so I never include the charts in my kits, which has engendered some confusion in the past. And unlike past kits, this does not include the silk backing, which I usually do when I finish the model as a pillow. That's because, one, I think many people might wish to frame their own Joyous season, and then the second reason is that I actually couldn't get the silk backing. So for every one of my kits, there's a private page on my website. The information for that is on your printed kit insert, and on that page I do have some recommendations for fabrics and where to get them if you would like to finish your own Joyous season as a pillow and would like to use a silk backing. Unfortunately, what I've done here is not available online and I wasn't able to get any in time. So unfortunately, as we discussed a few episodes ago, the stocked kits are fairly limited in number, and that's because this was not intended to be a kit. As I mentioned, that was just in response to overwhelming demand. It was done at very last minute, and that meant that all the planning work that usually goes into a Flosstube kit didn't happen. I didn't have that lead time to get materials into place to manage any supply chain issues. So I wasn't able to get as many kits in stock as I think, unfortunately, there should be demand for more than what I've got. So I will take pre-orders, but then the wrinkle on pre-orders is that those are going to be much longer to ship than they have in the past. They are very clearly marked. I am expecting them to ship in May 2023, which I realize is a lot longer than everybody would like, especially considering that this is a more winter focused stitch, but it is beautiful. I do highly recommend it, and if you're willing to wait, I will take pre-orders. However, pre-orders are not open-ended, again, due to some of the materials constraints that we're experiencing here. I do have a cap on the number of pre-orders I can take. I have no idea if we will reach that or not, but just so you know. That's the deal on Joyous season. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. One last look, just because oh my God, don't you love those poinsettias? Gorgeous. And of course, everybody talks about the house, but since I love stitching trees and flowers the most, my favorite feature is that beautiful sprawling basket with the lovely poinsettias and pomegranates framed by these great trees. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful project. Whether or not you're interested in the kit, Joyous season is a really fun stitch, whether you want to do it with silks or do it with the called for. So again, these are the kit silks. Sorry for the glare. Also, that would be a great Valentine's palette now that I think about it. So multi-purpose, as I hope many of you will find. So Carolyn of the Curious Crafters recently did her own original conversion for a project, digging out silks from previous kits that she's purchased from me, building a silk stash and using it in new ways, which I thought was just wonderful to see. It's one of the things I really hope that you'll do if you start building your own silk stash. Last note, more people have been sharing their finishes, their holiday finishes and other stitches. So please use the hashtag KatieStrackingKit on Instagram, because it's awesome to see what you're doing with all these fabulous materials, and I love it when you share. So definitely tag me and use the hashtag. But that's this Joyous season now available. And then let's get to my own finishes, because I do have some really fun ones. So the last time I saw you, I had finished the stitching on an old Brenda Gervais chart, Merry and Bright. I will insert a picture here of what my own stitch looked like so you can see the pre-sparklified version if you missed it or if you just need a refresher. And since then, what I've done is I've embellished and FFO'd this into a pillow. I love this guy. So this is my sparklified Merry and Bright. So Santa got some beads for eyes. I added some crystal pearls for the berries on the holly branches. These are the same that were used in the Joy and Good Cheer kits. And so the snowman also got some beaded embellishments, but my favorite thing is the sequined snow ground. So it uses sequins of, I think, 4 different sizes. They're a totally clear gloss, so there's no faceting, there's no AB finish, so you just get this, oh my gosh, isn't that great? I can't get enough of it. So I've gone totally solid at the top and then kind of less dense all the way down, which brings me to something that a commenter said, and it was really very true. She said how much she admired that I sparkle up my finishes, but don't, I mean, usually go overboard. So you could go totally solid on the sequined ground here, but I think you actually get a more interesting effect not going solid all the way down. So I'll insert a still photo here to see it flat. You do get a little less of the effect once it curves out as a pillow finish, and it's absolutely beautiful. I love it. I think it's subtle and fun without being overwhelming. It adds a little texture and a little sparkle. I did this in cross stitch on Santa's Night, as I've previously shown you, although in a smaller area. And then the first time I did this is actually on a much older finish. I believe I showed this in last year's haul, sorry, not last, a little over a year ago, so the 2021 I can't get used to it being 2023 holiday episodes. I believe that was episode 9, and this is one of my sequined crystal doves. So he's felt, and then on his feathers, they're all fully embellished, especially the tail feathers. So there's a mix of crystals here, tile beads, bugle beads, and then these, again, clear gloss sequins. And the contrast between this crazy embellishment and then the plain felt, I think, is one of the things that makes him really fun. If he were head to toe encrusted with sequins and crystals, he'd be totally overwhelming. But these kind of just flashes of sparkle just make him so fun. One of my absolute favorite Christmas ornaments. As you can probably see behind me, I haven't taken all my decorations down. The tree finally came down last week. I'm really bummed about that. Love sitting in front of it and stitching when it's up during the season. I just feel so inspired looking at all my favorite finishes from years past, things that have been gifted to me. So I can't go from Christmas to zero, so I left a few things up around the house, and yeah, you'll probably see them for a little while, including Merry and Bright, because this guy is really fun. As I discussed in the last episode, he is going to be a complimentary piece to the Christmas in July Flosstube kit. Santa stops here. The conversion was also in the last episode, but I'll put it again in the description for this one. And this guy is great. Really pleased with how he turned out. So, next finishes. Prairie Schooler Santa. This is the 2011 Santa snowshoeing with a, backpack full of snowballs and a staff of the cardinal. A little random, but very wintry. I like him. So, I stitched him twice. More on that in a second. But this is the first version, which I stitched for myself, and I did something suggested by a commenter ages ago, but I just hadn't found quite the right project for it yet. This was the right project. So this is my Prairie Schooler Santa, and what's really awesome here is I have used a very small metallic braid for the hanger, but then I have stitched into it using Soie 103 and just going back and forth, weaving into the braid these crystal pendants. So these are 6 and 8 millimeter bicone pendants. So a bead is drilled through the center. They make the same shape, bicone, drilled through the top, and that's a bicone pendant. So you can easily attach it to, say, an ornament hanger. And these are so they, as you can see, they tremble and just glitter and sparkle. And to me, they look like fun, sparkly icicles. I absolutely love it. But this guy does a few other tricks. So I have given him little red silver lined beads for berries. The snowballs are done with Accentuate and 103. They do sparkle, although that doesn't really pick up on camera. And then in place of the plain running stitch edging done on the Prairie Schooler example, I did a running stitch, but instead of just plain thread for every place where it came up to do a running stitch, I threaded on one size 15-0 cut hex beads. So I'll put the information on these in the description, but this is a cylindrical faceted bead and it's perfect for a single running stitch finish. It's great. It's just a little bit sparkly at the edge, gives a little finish, and then on the back I've got a little silk satin here. So this is Prairie Schooler Santa version 1, and one interesting thing to note about him is that he actually uses pretty much exactly the same colors as shown here, with only one change as Merry and Bright. They're on the same ground, which is Legacy Linen 38 count Cloister cream, but because of the different balance of colors, so this guy's really dominated by the red and just framed a little bit by the greens, whereas here you've got more of the darker colors, you get a very different feel. Both great. Love the ornament hanger. Oh, I'm definitely gonna have to do that again. I've already ordered more beads because, oh boy, that was fun. But then I went back to this guy again because I live about 15 minutes south of San Francisco International Airport, and I am not in the flight path. My goodness. Except for when we have extreme weather events where visibility is incredibly low, and then the planes fly very low on approach over my house roughly from the hours of 11 p.m. to 2 a.m., which is way better than getting flooded, so I'm not complaining. But I have been a little sleep deprived, and when I finished Prairie Schooler Santa 1, I just was so bug-eyed and no higher brain function. I could not come up with a conversion or a new project or pick a chart. I was just, you know what? I'm gonna stitch this again, and I'm going to make a second one, and that'll just be a Christmas gift next year. However, even when I'm sleep deprived, I can't stitch the exact same thing again, so I used all the same colors. I did the same beaded edging, but this time I gave him a fluffy, fabulous beard. Isn't that fun? I was actually going to do a different edging on him. This is the same type of bead, but in a lovely green. However, the green silk I have here is a very true hunter green. This, although you can't really see it from this, I will insert a photo, has more blue-green undertones, and that was really bothering me. So I switched back to the white luster, which is very forgiving, and I thought the beard was really the highlight. So this is a needlepoint thread called Fuzzy Stuff, which normally I wouldn't recommend Rainbow Gallery anything. However, for this one very specific purpose of fuzzy beards on your Prairie Schooler Santa, you can't beat it. Not actually my idea. My mom and I have both used it on needlepoint. I mean, I think everybody who's done Christmas needlepoint has used Fuzzy Stuff, but this is what my mom gave me, not for Christmas 2022, but Christmas 2021. God, I keep wanting to say last Christmas, but no, Christmas before that was a Prairie Schooler Santa that she stitched me, and she also gave him a wonderful fluffy beard made with fuzzy stuff. This always gets prime placement, always. 2 Christmases I've had it, it gets prime placement on my tree because I love this guy. So I took her innovation and I added my very own fuzzy and lightly sparkly beard to Prairie Schooler Santa 2. So 1 for me, 1 for a lucky recipient next Christmas. I really enjoyed it. And then that actually brings me to another point. So Brenda was talking on their most recent episode about silks 103, which do come at like Gobelins on 50-meter spools, and how it is good value considering how much thread you get. I've got a good illustration of that today because I've been using this red Gobelins 945 for so many of my Christmas projects. As you can see, I've made quite a dent in it, but there is still, there's got to be at least 10 meters of thread here. So I'm maybe, I don't know, 80% of the way through, and this is what I've gotten out of it. 2 small ornaments that don't use a lot of red, 2 Prairie Schoolers that use a moderate amount of red, another stitch with a similar density of red, which I can't show you because I gave it to my mom for Christmas and it's already been packed away. So we'll look at that next year when our Christmas decorations come out. And then Merry and Bright, which has quite a lot of red block stitching indeed. So that 1 spool of 945 got me through 6 stitches of various sizes. There's still more, so yes, can confirm, and it all has been the same spool. You get a whole lot of stitching out of 50 meters of thread. So just that aside, quick review of Katie's Sparkle Prim. As you might have noticed, I'm using Cloister cream for all of that, and part of that is just I have these very narrow, long strips of remnants from the Bells of Christmas kits, which I am determined to use up. Also, I love Cloister cream. It's perfect for Katie's Sparkle Prim. So, review of Sparkle Prim so far. Santa's Night with some fabulous sparkly embellishments. Rudolph and Friends, Brenda Gervais. 2 Prairie Schooler Santas with varying embellishments. This one's really more sparkle. This is just kind of Prairie Schooler, but you know what? It's my Flosstube. I get to class things however I want. And then fabulously Sparkle Prim, Merry and Bright. As you can see, I've been having a lot of fun with it. I hope you're enjoying seeing these because I have no intention of dropping the Sparkle Prim thing. Oh, another fun update. So, when last episode I showed you the wonderful over one ornament that my mom gave me, I missed something rather essential. I could kick myself, truly. So I was so busy admiring all this wonderful over one. By the way, this pattern, which I didn't have the name of, is JBW Designs French Country Crown. Judy Whitman herself actually commented on the episode and was kind enough to tell me the name of the pattern. Thank you, Judy. That was so kind. My mom and I were incredibly touched. And what I missed about this is the thread. I didn't look that closely until I was removing these from the tree and thought, you know, that doesn't look like DMC or Fancy Floss. And no, it's not. That's not just over one. My mom did over one with Soie Gobelins. This is 779, my very favorite red. I'm kind of ashamed I didn't recognize it at once, but I have fully converted her to Team Fabulous Silks because she is now stitching my Bells of Christmas kit with my silk conversion and really loving the threads. My dad got her the daylight lighted magnifier for Christmas, which has really improved her stitching experience. So she's having a lot of fun with silks. I'm gonna get everybody stitching with silk just because it's beautiful, it's shiny, it's fun to stitch with. Part of the joy of Flosstube is sharing the things that I love with you, whether that's sequins or beads or fabulous silks. So it's always so gratifying to hear that somebody has started stitching with the same things I enjoy and that they're loving it too. One further update. So the Simple Harmony box, last time I mentioned that it appears to be temporarily unavailable from the Amazon seller. Still haven't heard back from them, but a wonderfully helpful viewer provided incredibly precise measurements of the unfinished box. Those are now up on my website. I will link them in the description. So if you want to start the project and you know a woodworker, you can have a box fabricated because the exact dimensions are available. And thank you, thank you, thank you. That was so helpful. You know who you are. And then I'm gonna pause this video, clear away some of the mess that's around me, and then we're gonna talk haul. Okay, let's talk haul. This is a little silly, but I trust that we're all friends here and that you won't judge me, my silliness. So I have only bought one thing since last Flosstube. No thread, no linen, no charts, and that is a special little accessory to add to my stitching setup. So like a lot of people, I use the Kiana Case for scissors, threads, needles, etc., the whole 9 yards. I've had this, I think, for almost a year, and I bought the gray because I love neutrals. I'm not really a red person. I've got enough of that happening on my head. But after Lou and Sue came out with the Katie folio, fabulous, I love it, you guys. As Laura noted recently, this truly is the Cadillac of spool storage. So after a little while after this came out, I was shopping the Kiana website and noticed that they had a new seasonal color called Jade, which looked just like this little touch of green in the pattern, and that it came in the case. Viewers, I was tempted. I was so tempted to get a case to coordinate with my Lou and Sue set. I resisted. That's so wasteful. That's so wasteful. And these aren't inexpensive, so yeah, really wasteful. I resisted. But after Christmas, I went back to check on Jade, you know, hoping maybe it was on sale. Not on sale. But I noticed that they had something else, which I didn't have and therefore would not be repeat purchasing and horribly profligate. Just, you know, mildly profligate. And that was a vanity case to hold all my other stitching accessories. So this is Jade. It's a little more blue than the greenish color I've been expecting, but it still looks beautiful with the Katie set. I think it's going to be a great all together. Hoping to get to a retreat this year, so you'll see me with this if I make it. And what this holds is my full stitching setup. So if I'm traveling, it would be my glass case, my hoop, and my travel light. This is the daylight fold-to-go. Or it could also hold, if I'm just kind of bumming around town going to stitch with my mom, my case, my hoop, and my glasses, which also leads me to, and of course I got it monogrammed because I'm a sucker for a good monogram, which leads me to answer a question I get a lot, which is about my stitching setup. How do I stitch and what do I use? So I stitch small projects like the Prairie Schooler Santa in hand with the stabbing method, never the sewing method, because that increases distortion and it's harder to get your threads to lie neatly. And then I always block my finishes out afterwards to remove distortion. If you're new to blocking, I have a tutorial on that as part of the Simple Harmony series, and I'll link it in the description. It's absolutely essential, especially if you're going to stitch in hand. I always recommend it for any cross stitch finish, but if you're stitching in hand, you really have to remove the distortion afterwards, and you'll get a much better finish if you block afterwards. For larger projects, like say the Simple Harmony box, or I'm going to start Santa Stops here, then I use a hoop. My favorite hoop, I have a few, is this small oval hoop from Hardwick Manor because of the way it nicely sits in your hands like this. It puts a little less stress, because the weight of a hoop, if you're just holding it like this, can be a little annoying over the course of several hours. So you can just nicely rest it in your hands or against the table. Susan Stanley has the same hoop at my recommendation and has talked on her last couple Flosstubes about using it. Hoops should strictly be wrapped in twill tape. Never bias tape, always twill tape. I haven't bothered doing that here. That's because I'm lazy. You should really wrap it in twill tape. So this is a great hoop to use. It stabilizes your fabric from all directions, as Susan has noted. It reduces distortion, and it also will, if you're having trouble with having a lot of fabric, it will get the fabric up and out of your way. So larger projects, hoop. Smaller projects in hands. I do also block my larger stitches as well, and then I don't use magnification. That's just really good fortune. I still somehow have 20/20 eyesight, so I only need minor correction at night, which is when I put my glasses on. During the day, I don't use anything at all. Even 5363, that was stitched with and nothing else. I know that's gonna change, but for now I'm gonna make hay and stitch on small counts while the sun shines. So glasses, hoop, and then of course lots of light, which I have at home, but when you're traveling, there's never been a hotel room with enough light. So that's my stitching setup. And then for surface embroidery, like what I'm about to show you, I always stitch with it laced in a frame, either reinforced stretcher bars or a slate frame with my Lowry floor stand. I absolutely never use a hoop for surface embroidery. It does not provide adequate tension. Anyone who says it does is lying. That's one of my personal hobby horses. It just doesn't work. So let's talk casket stitching, because I have indeed made some progress on my own. So one of my stitchy plans was to get back to my Brenda casket. If you're new to my channel, casket is not a box for dead people. It's an elaborate 17th century style embroidered box. Mine is a reproduction produced by Thistle Threads as part of their Cabinet of Curiosities course. I was an early student, and that really shaped my stitching journey. So quick recap before I show you my progress on the back of the Brenda casket and where I am on it. So close and yet so far would be my statement. I'm gonna try and hold this as steady as I can, but it's really heavy, so maybe just hit the pause button if there's something you want to take a close look at, because holding this up and steady for a considerable amount of time, not possible. This thing weighs a ton. So this casket tells the story of Britomart, Edmund Spenser's female knight, from his epic poem, The Fairy Queen. Puts the epic in epic. This thing is a brick. This is my copy from school. And The Fairy Queen was written during the Elizabethan era as a way to curry favor with Queen Elizabeth and get a position at court. It failed. Spenser died halfway through, and the book was never finished. This is only half of what he had in man. Man, it was a nut, let me tell you. But I love him. And book 3 of the 6 that were written, there were 12 planned, tells the story of Britomart. the female knight. She's obviously an allegory for Britain. And this is my visual interpretation of her story. So the front, and oh, just a thematic note about this. This is visually an homage to my favorite 17th century caskets. So it's worked in a quite traditional style, and a lot of these call back to specific historic pieces, including the front, which draws on a wonderful casket sold by Christie's. It tells the story of Joseph, although I've altered it to tell the story of Britomart. So this shows her, Britomart, right there in the center with the golden hair and a big spear, victorious after a tournament. So she spends a fair amount of the book dressed up as a male knight, concealing her identity. This is the point when she removes her helmet and reveals herself as female to onlookers. And this panel is worked in full stump work with tons of needle lace. Everyone's padded so it stands up quite high off the fabric. This is one of my favorites. And then the frieze there shows the two heraldic animals of Britain, the lion and the unicorn, because Britomart, Britain, yeah, you get the connection. And then the lid, thank God, give my arms a break, shows Britomart's decisive battle against her greatest enemy, Radegund, the Amazonian warrior queen, who has taken Britomart's true love, Artegall, captive. This panel is an homage to another one of my favorite 17th century pieces, the Fenton House casket. So here we've got Britomart going to do battle, and that's Radegund, the warrior queen. So that's the lid. And then on this side, we have the beginning of Britomart's journey. So this shows her at the start of the book. She is a princess of Britain, and she looks into a magic mirror. So here I've represented that by stitching underneath and then covering it with mica to give it a reflective surface, although it's reflecting my windows and it's kind of hard to see the stitching under it. She looks into the magic mirror and she sees her true love, Artegall, her destiny, and she decides to go off on a quest dressed as a knight and seek him in Fairyland. So Britomart's wearing a spectacular ornui dress with, that's real silver thread, and then a little leopard with some glittery green gold spots, some beautiful flowers, that's tiny silk wrapped pearl there for the leaf. And then this panel represents the start of Britomart's journey. The next side, this is the last finished side and the one, my most recent finish on this piece, shows a critical scene from the poem. This is when Britomart, still masquerading as a man, stops at a castle where the hostess admires what she thinks is a handsome young knight, sneaks into Britomart's chamber for a midnight assignation, and is very unpleasantly surprised to find a very angry, very female Britomart instead, not at all welcoming, and then soldiers run in. Big conflict. So the frieze has a pheasant with some lovely stumpwork feathers, and then flanked by a couple of flowers that are a tribute to another favorite piece. So that's the side. And then one stylistic note I would note about these is how all the sides of the casket utilize draping in the same general color family of reds and pinks as, sorry, I'm breathing hard. This thing weighs a ton, as a visual connection between the sides, something that's repeated on the back. And then, seriously, my arms are burning. This is where we are with the back. And I will show you my stitching. If you've been a faithful viewer of my channel and none of this is news to you, I hope you didn't mind the recap. So this is the design. And this shows the scene where Brenda Mart stages a rescue of her BFF Amoret from the castle of the evil sorcerer. So Brenda Mart has just entered from the antechamber to find the captive Amoret being tortured by a mask that the sorcerer stages every night. So unfortunately, something I couldn't work in here is that in the antechamber, so Brenda Mart finds an antechamber, and on the sides of it are "Be bold, be bold, be bold, everywhere, be bold." And then in small print, "Be not too bold." So be bold, be bold, be not too bold. Is that a motto for life or what? One of Spencer's more insightful moments is real gift is language, not storytelling. So this is the dramatic scene I picked for the back. Whole lot of stitching to save until the end, but I never said I was smart. So this is where I am with the stitching. I've made some progress. When I last showed this to you, I had done a little bit of the draping. Stump work is all about order of operations. So the drapes go behind the figures, the floor goes under their feet, and therefore those elements need to be worked first before you can get to any of the fun people stitching. So I have now finished all the needle lace drapes. This is simple needle lace in Soie Prairie in the same dramatic reds and pinks. So as you can see from middle distance, it just looks like a dramatic fading element. When you're looking up close, the shading looks very, very stripy. It's kind of an effective visual trick, don't you think? And then once I had finished my drape stitching, rather than going to the solid block of floor, I decided to have a little fun and finish out the frieze. So I had done the 2 flowers on the side, and then I finished it since I saw you last. So there's an odd gap, and these are for the hinges. Above them will go my initials and the date. As you can see, that says 202 because I haven't been brave enough to draw in a 3 yet. I'm gonna do a nut if this casket doesn't say 2023 on it, but I am not willing to tempt fate by drawing that in until that's definitely going to be a thing. I really hope so. So this is what's been added to the frieze. It's 2 flowers and then this silly, silly, silly little parrot. Isn't he fun? I love him. So accented with a little bit of gold for sparkle, and then we've got the same luscious pinks and reds, which visually connect this to what happens directly beneath it, because this panel is going to be quite visually busy. So I thought some unifying elements were called for so that the whole thing doesn't just look like a complete and utter mess. So a little bit of gold, some green, some pink, some red. I think this is going to be beautiful. So next step on this is going to be to stitch the ground underneath the figures, and then I can get to all of the people. So we'll see how far and how fast I get with this. I am really hoping that this isn't going to take me forever and a day, because I'm already dreaming of the next big project. I'd like to get on with it, but of course I do want to do justice to the work that I've already done and have a strong finish on Brenda Mart. So I'm feeling refreshed after the holiday, ready to do my casket stitching, and I'm hoping for some more good progress on that as we move forward this year. So last thing today is the winner of the silk giveaway, which were the different silk, satin, and taffeta backings, and the winner of the silk giveaway is D Cox NTX1. I have commented on your comment. Please send me your mailing address and I will get this out to you. Congratulations. So that's all for today, and for next time, new frontiers in Sparkle. I have something new that I'm trying. I'm really excited to share with you some new starts, hopefully some progress on Brenda Mart. Not sure if you'll see her next time or not. And then I have a new larger project picked out to go in the Katie Folio and project bag. So we'll see what ended up in here. And I hear, Lewis, you might have another release sometime soon. So if you've missed out on a folio so far, definitely make sure you are subscribed to Susan Stanley Stitch in Time and watching her videos. One, because they're just awesome, but two, so is the folio. So next time, new starts, new sparkle, and lots of stitchy fun. As always, I hope you'll join me again in 2 weeks for that. And until then, happy stitching.